Well, fellas, day 4 of no UFC for 6 whole weeks, right? Day 4 out of 43. Not gonna lie, I'm struggling. No prediction video I can make, no fight card I can talk about, no nothing. It's boring. Life is boring when there's not a card on the weekend, right? But what we can do as a community, we can talk about things that we as a community need to do better going into 2026 so that that year is more enjoyable. The sport is more enjoyable. The sport is better and is not as toxic, right? Let's do that. Let's reflect on the things we can do better starting in 2026. Let's go for that. Yeah, let's go for that. You see the shirt. All right, so the first thing we need to do, we need to retire the whole casual slur. You feel me? The C word needs to be canceled, right? Because first and foremost, it's really hypocritical, first and foremost, because everybody at some point was a casual, right? Like, think about it. Who are the people that initially got us to fall in love with the sport? For some of you new generation fans, it was the Ilya Taporias or the Alex Pereiras or maybe the Conor McGregors, and for you old heads, it was probably the Anderson Silvas or George St. Pierre's, stuff like that. Before we became fans of those guys, we were casuals. If not even that, we were just not fans at all. And then those guys turned us into casuals, those superstars, I mean. And then when we got more and more familiar with the roster after seeing, these superstars fight different dudes, then we became hardcores, right? So with that instance, please be nice to the casuals because everyone was a casual at some point. But another reason as to why we need to retire the term casual is because it simply just doesn't make any freaking sense, right? So, for example, I was getting labeled as a casual a lot when I made that Pantoja take, which was basically saying he's the go to flyweight instead of Demetrius Johnson. But I had pretty valid reasons to think that. Like I was saying, Pantoja fought opponents that on average were closer to their prime age. He fought more experienced opponents because they had more total wins throughout their entire MMA careers in comparison to Demetrius Johnson's combined opponents. Pantoja's fighting in an era that's more skilled because the sport has evolved in the last 10 years, and Pantoja has more finishes. That's like 5 reasons on why I argued for Pantoja being the GOAT of flyweight. 5 very valid reasons. But because somebody disagrees with that opinion, that makes me a casual. Simply disagreeing with an opinion doesn't make you a casual. Being a casual is someone that doesn't know anything about current events in the sport. That's a casual. A casual is someone that only knows superstars. Okay? Having very well thought out and well, basically thought out takes doesn't make you a casual, even if you disagree with the take. You feel me? So, yeah, those are my grievances with the whole casual slur. We need to leave it behind. And I also feel like it's going to scare some newer fans away from the sport because some newer fans identify as casuals. And then when they go in the comment section and they see people throwing that term around like it's the damn N word, it's going to scare some people away, right? So, yeah, let's retire it. Oh, this is a really good one. Another thing we need to leave behind in 2025 is this whole, oh, if you don't like grappling, go watch boxing, go watch kickboxing. It's the same copy and paste, run of the mill response whenever somebody calls grappling boring, right? Here's a news flash for both parties. Whether you hate grappling or whether you love it and you hate on people that hate on it, understand this. Yes, grappling is a big part of the sport, right? And also, yes, it can be very fucking boring. Two things can be true at the same time. Why do we act like two things can't be true at the same time? Two things can be true, right? I saw a lot of controversy with Valentino Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili, and then obviously Islam versus JDM. A lot of that discourse was going around, but that at the same time, that's been a thing since the beginning of time with MMA, right? Grappling can be fun, grappling can be boring. Striking can be fun, striking can be boring. I know grapplers that are way more exciting than primary strikers. I see it all the time. I would much rather watch Chase Hooper than an average Leon Edwards fight. I would much rather watch Charles Oliveira than an average Leon Edwards fight. You feel me? Yes, I don't think too highly of Leon Edwards, whatever, right? As far as entertainment, I don't think too highly. But yeah, those of you that know that I've been a Leon hater for a very long time, right? But still, back to the main point. Something can be boring and something can be impressive at the same time. Hell, the main event for UFC 319, Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat's performance was extremely impressive, but it was also boring. Two things can be true. I thought it was boring, but I was also very impressed. Now, I was more like intrigued than bored. I was leaning more towards the intrigued side, But by no means was I entertained. By no means was I jumping up and down my seat talking about rah, rah. Like Hamza Chimaev's performance at 319 is not getting me kicked out of a Buffalo Wild Wings like this guy on my shirt right here. You feel me? That's never happening. Right? Right. Like I said, two things can be true at the same time. So let's stop having these back and forth arguments over who's right and who's wrong. Both of y'all are correct. A grappling performance can be boring and impressive at the same time. So no more of that go watch kickboxing BS. No more of that, bro. No more of that. Another thing that we need to leave in 2025, and this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, right? I'm telling you right now. Complaining about fighter pay while at the same time you're pirating every single fight night, every single pay-per-view. You're always on Stream East. You're a Stream East maxer, yet you have the audacity to complain about fighter pay. You do realize that you not giving your hard-earned money to the corporation that writes the checks for the fighters is not helping them, right? At the end of the day, if anything, you're making the pay worse because you're lowering the total amount of revenue that the company can make, and therefore the percentage of revenue that the fighters are going to receive in return, right? You're lowering it every time you fucking pirate something. We get that, right? And when it's millions of people that have that mindset, as you can tell, that's a massive amount of money that the fighters are going to miss out on. That shit adds up from year after year, event after event, month after month. That shit adds up. All the dollars they miss out on because of piracy, that adds up a lot. You think that's going to help fighter pay? No. If anything, you're making fighter pay worse. Not that, I'm not saying the percentage in which the UFC pays their fighters relative to other leagues and their percentages in which they pay their athletes is okay. I'm not going to say that's going to improve with the lack of privacy. If anything, like, it's going to stay the same, right? The UFC only pays 16% of their total revenue to the fighters. NBA does 50%, right? Night and day difference. There's still a lot of money being left on the table, but still, you pirating does not help at all. I'll tell you that much right now. I'll tell you that fucking much right now. The piracy does not help at all. So stop complaining about it if you're not going to cough up $80 to watch a pay-per-view or split it up or whatever. If you want to help fighter pay for pay-per-views. Pay for ESPN Plus. Do something. I mean, and Paramount, with the whole Paramount thing, pay for Paramount instead of just illegally streaming. Or go watch a fighter's YouTube channel or something, right? Me personally, I think fighters should stay underpaid because it gives the UFC more leverage to give us the fights that we fans want. But at the same time, I'll go to a local B-dubs and support the restaurant chain that has bought the pay-per-view. And I'll make it worthwhile for them buying the pay-per-view. Or I'll buy the pay-per-view myself at my own crib. You feel me? I'll support them regardless. I still support the fighters. Y'all can't say the same. Y'all doing the opposite. Another thing we need to stop doing, and honestly, I fall victim to this a lot, but overglazing credentials of a fighter when he's a newcomer. Like, for example, that Olympic gold medal of Henry Cejudo. We have been overly glazing that shit for his entire career. You feel me? Because when I went back and watched Henry Cejudo film, he really wasn't the wrestler y'all was making him out to be. Like, don't get me wrong, he could get a takedown when he needed to get a takedown. Like, he had pretty good, like, takedown accuracy. But when you overly glaze the Olympic gold medal prehensively to when I watched film on him, I was under the impression that he was going to be getting takedowns at will within the first 2 minutes like Hamza Chimaev or something, right? I thought he was going to be on that type of timing the way people was talking about that gold medal. But no, he doesn't do that at all. That's not what he does. He's a striker first, wide karate stance, more so a counter striker, if anything. And then he shoots takedowns opportunistically, right? Same thing with like even this past weekend, Cesar Almeida, a guy that has a win over Alex Pereira in kickboxing and fought in Glory kickboxing for the longest time. You feel me? We thought he was just going to come to the UFC and he was just going to smoke everybody on the feet. And don't get me wrong, he's a good striker, but he's not just starching people like it's nothing every single fight, right? And he gets easily taken down every single time, which is what we expected, right? But still, it's still very much possible for Cesar Almeida to get outstruck. Or a better example, Marcus Buchecha. Marcus Buchecha this weekend as well. All these crazy accolades in jiu-jitsu, absolute legend in the jiu-jitsu world. But when he comes to MMA, he can't apply his jiu-jitsu knowledge properly. It doesn't translate. Only a certain amount of that shit's translating, right? MMA jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu competition jiu-jitsu are two different things. When you spend too much time specializing in one specific sport, it kind of holds you back when you finally decide to switch over to MMA, especially if you switch over at a later age. It always holds you back. Being a specialist is more detrimental than helpful at a certain point. Like, don't get me wrong, it helps, but it puts a limit on your ceiling as far as potential as an MMA fighter goes. You feel me? It puts a limit on it. And it's important that we stop making this mistake because a lot of people are going to lose money making these mistakes when they make their parlays. A lot of people are just going to get picks dead freaking wrong a lot of the time because they keep doing this. And it's just at a point where we got to look beyond that. We got to look beyond specific sport credentials. You feel me? They clearly don't matter as much as we think they do. And the last thing for now, please stop blaming fighters every single time one of your parlays don't hit. Please stop. It's your fault for picking them. It's not always their fault. Even if they're a big favorite, even if the referee was on bullshit, even if whatever reason, there could be a lot of reasons why a parlay didn't hit. Maybe you shouldn't be gambling to begin with. Maybe you put too many legs on your parlay. Maybe it wasn't a full decisive thing that leg was going to hit. Sometimes parlays are just bad. We got to take more personal responsibility for our failures on the betting lines instead of just blaming it on everything else. Because not only does that make you more at peace with your decisions and with what you lost, but it also makes you a better bettor. Better betting. It makes you better at betting. The high level bettors aren't crashing out and getting super angry and pointing fingers at the rest of the world every time they don't hit on something. They point fingers at themselves. You feel me? So yeah, and that goes for anything you do in life. You always got to take personal responsibility. The locus of control, man. Your locus of control has to be internal, man. You have to understand that you have control over your reality. You have control over your money. You have control over your consequences. You feel me? Because you do. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna make a part two to this series. I really like this series. Actually, it's pretty fun, pretty easy to make. You feel me? Just nice little yap session, nice little ramblings. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Helps the algorithm a lot. And with that being said, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let's go for that.